Welcome on this beautiful autumn weekend to All Souls Unitarian Universalist Church. So good to see you, and I am very excited about today's service with Danny Bodkin as our guest speaker. I'm Kate Mason, and I'm your worship host for today. If this is your first visit, we invite you to sign the guest book by the front door. And we are proud to be a welcoming congregation. And I'm just hoping that the folks on the leadership team might raise their hands so others can see who makes this church run. And of course, we're always welcoming new visitors. Maria, raise your hand. Thank you. Russ. Anyway. We're always welcoming new members. And you'll find more information about All Souls in the pamphlets in the pews. So also I want to welcome people on Zoom. And I'm wondering if you can tell me who's with us.
Sure. This morning we have
Gary Parsner. And Trudy, welcome. And also I want to welcome Kit Johnson, who's our musician and our choir director, as well as the All Souls Pop-Up Choir, who you will be hearing from soon. So, now comes the time to breathe. Settle in. Come into this room and be present. Be focused and be at peace. In the words of Reverend Kathleen McTeague, we come together this morning to remind one another to rest for a moment on the forming edge of our lives, to resist the headlong tumble into the next moment until we claim for ourselves awareness and gratitude, taking the time to look into one another's faces and see communion. This house of laughter and silence, memory and hope is hallowed by our presence together. Let us take this time for quiet reflection as we listen in silence to the prelude, which is maybe we go ahead with the chalice lighting.
No, that's okay.
You'll do it? Thank you, Kit.
Sorry, you just heard it. I mixed them up. Bottom lip.
Now, as Danny lights the chalice, please join me in reading the words that are printed in your order of worship next to chalice lighting. Life is a gift for which we are grateful. We gather in community to celebrate the glories and the mysteries of this great gift. And now I invite you to join together, stand as you're able. The teal hymnal, the smaller hymnal, 1067. Now I invite you to read along with me the Congregational Covenant, which is specific to our All Souls UU Church. It was created a few years ago. It was revised a few years ago. So this is us. This is our goal. In this house, we covenant with one another to create a community built on a foundation of love, to work together to promote equality, justice, and peace, accepting responsibility for our individual acts. It's to stand on the side of love, embracing the liberation of the oppressed, and working to end discrimination and unjust privilege, to communicate with kindness and support, and to serve with compassion and commitment, to listen respectfully and value our diversity as a source of our collective strength, to learn and grow together, generously sharing our time, talents, and treasures, to celebrate the joys from the wonder of youth to the wisdom of age, to open share our laughter and our tears. that is. And now the choir will sing Follow the Road while we invite you to share your treasures for our good works.
Travels are not done. I'll sit by the fire and drink a toast to all of you. Blessed be as leaves are falling. The road is calling as leaves are falling. It's back to home. Our travels are now done. I'll sit by the fire and drink a toast to all of you. Blessed be. Leaves are falling, it's back to calling as leaves are falling, it's back to home. Our travels are now done. I'll sit by the fire and drink a toast to all of you. Blessed be to see you again.
Now it's my very great pleasure to introduce a man who needs no introduction, Danny Bodkin.
Good morning, my people. What a pleasure to be here. We're grateful to be standing on Abenaki and Nipmuc land, ancestral. We're grateful to be here. What a miracle to be here at all. And I'd like to share some good news with you today, because Goddess knows we could all use some good news. I'd like to share with you, first of all, I'll tell you about my beautiful farm in Gill, just 7 miles north of here, probably the most beautiful place in the county. And I'd like to also tell you about a kind of farming that we have embraced that we call permaculture, which is actually a vast movement that we believe will be part of the solution, the great solution, not the solution, but part of. And we're grateful to be practicing permaculture. And lastly, I want to tell you about a miracle healing that I have incurred. And it might sound a little strange for an old Jewish atheist to stand up in a house of worship and talk about miracle healing, but I have been very sick for 4 years, and now I'm better. And I'd like to share a little bit about that. First of all, it's very ironic that I should end up on the site of an old defunct commune in Gill, having been a young hippie traveling around, hitchhiking around, and visiting communes, thinking about intentional community, longing for community, ever since I was a little boy. In fact, when I was just 6 years old, I remember having an imagination. Perhaps you would say I had an active spiritual life. And I had this fantasy, you'll call it a cross between Robinson Crusoe and socialism. And my parents, both educators, took us camping every summer to these grandiose national parks, the Tetons, the Rockies, Glacier, whitewater canoeing. And wherever I went, I was in awe, in total awe of the natural world and what it did to me. And all I could think of was getting away from strip malls, getting away from civilization, and getting back to the land. And I had this great fantasy of a group of comrades, similarly inclined individuals who would want to go with me back to the land. And I think I've spent my entire life trying to recreate that fantasy. The second thing that I remember very powerfully from my early childhood was at age 6, I came home from school and my parents were openly weeping, perhaps the only time I'd ever seen them cry. And it was, of course, the JFK assassination. And it wasn't until later that I learned that JFK was attempting to disarm the world, and perhaps that was part of why he was eliminated. It was only a year later that my little friend approached me on the playground and said, "Danny, did you know there are bombs that Russia and America has big enough to destroy the whole world?" Now that's a tough nut for a 6-year-old child who is just coming upon sentience and awareness to think about. But I remember lying awake for years afterwards. Actually, I didn't believe it. I said, "No, that's not true. That couldn't be true." And I went to my dad, who was the purveyor of all truth and the rock in my life. And I said, "Dad, is this true? Is this true? Are there bombs big enough to destroy everyone and everything? Our neighborhood, Mom and Dad, everything?" And he hemmed and hawed, and he finally admitted to me that there were. It was only 3 years later that, as a young 5th grader, I had been given a transistor radio for Hanukkah. And I listened to that radio religiously to and from school. And somewhere, it must have been, you see, I wasn't aware of the MLK assassination, but I do remember hearing Robert F. Kennedy speak to the people on the street of Indianapolis the night he found out that King had been assassinated. And his heart and his soul and his striving and belief in social justice, his longing to bring people together, moved me. It was my first inkling of political awareness. And I had this groundswell, this upswell, a desire for peace. And it was just a few days after that, a few months after that, that RFK himself was assassinated. And I was thrown into a state of disarray and confusion. My hero, the one who represented to me my latent political awareness coming of age as a 5th grader. Later, I was influenced by a mentor in college, Willie Unsold, Evergreen State College professor, who was a spiritual man, a mountain climber. He forged a new path up Mount Everest on the West Ridge, lost all 10 of his toes in doing so, and ended up coming back to America, founding a very avant-garde college and influencing untold thousands of young people. Willie believed that the value of the wilderness experience was in touching the cosmic and bringing us together into an awareness of the supreme and of the divine. And the year that he was my teacher, he and a young woman I was madly in love with died in an avalanche on Mount Rainier. And I would say that I have spent the last 43 years trying to emulate those two individuals. And I'm still in touch with many of the outdoor education folks that we shared that experience with. So, how did I get to a hilltop in Gill raising goats, chestnuts, pawpaws? And really, I want to skip ahead to what happened to me 4 years ago, because having this beautiful life, raising a daughter and having a beloved partner, living on 5 acres of what was once the Renaissance commune, we had this incredible run of good luck. Didn't think about, the political crises of the last several years have impacted us, but we had this paradise that we could fall back on. The animals, the connectivity, nature, the food, our beloved community. And suddenly, out of the blue, I got incredibly sick, delirium, brain fog, chemical sensitivity. I became the person that I had disparaged for many years. Oh, just get up and work. Fibromyalgia, chronic fatigue. Are those real diseases? Come to find out they are. So, the universe, or God, or goddess, whoever you wish, played a trick on me. And I got incredibly ill, and I thought I was going to die. In fact, I gave away my vinyl collection. All my Simon and Garfunkels, Moody Blues, Peter, Paul, and Mary. That's what you do. My daughter didn't want them. My wife didn't want them. And we demolished our home because we thought mold in our cellar had made me ill. You call in a mold expert, they find mold. Go figure. We gave away our animals. I couldn't sleep. I couldn't work. I had no energy. I was racked with a devastating and idiopathic constipation for 2 years that nobody could figure out. I went and it was scoped from top to bottom. I swallowed a camera that took pictures of my insides. I went to Mexico and spent tens of thousands of my dad's money in a holistic hospital, state-of-the-art hospital in Tijuana. And nobody could figure out why I was so sick. We moved away from the farm, we gave away our animals, and we demolished our uninsured 4-story grandiose commune house that Michael Metellica, the cult leader, had built in 1979. It didn't seem like anything good was happening for us. And then, finally, and I'll keep this brief because it's a very long story, I gave up chasing symptoms. I gave up going to medical appointments. I gave up all my supplements. All the doctors, they all had a different theory. The straight doctors, the alternative doctors, the functional medicine, the integrative medicine. And finally, I quit waiting to feel better, and I decided that, feel better or not, I would get up every morning and go to the farm, and I started trying to reclaim what it was now in terrible disarray, 3 years of abandonment. You know what that does to a farm. And I started re-gardening 1 square foot, even though I felt like crap and couldn't move, had no energy. 1 square foot. And then a young couple advertised on the local listserv that they were looking for garden space, a young, lovely, pregnant couple. And I said, heck, I've got an entire farm in hiatus. Come on, take it, do whatever you want. And they came on up, and youngsters in their 20s having a new baby, there's something healing about that. And there's something incredibly healing, come to find out, about walking barefoot on Mother Earth. I was a skeptic. And little by little, not quickly, I started to feel better. That was last summer. And we had a lovely, successful square-foot garden. Pete and Sarah and I, they had their baby. And my dad and my brother and my sister, who were my incredible rocks, they all said, demolish that house, start over, rebuild. Now, I had no idea that I had an inheritance coming. And we used that inheritance, it's gone now, but we used that inheritance to build a small, efficient, very rectangular and boring looking house, unlike the crazy hippie house that we had. We were going to fix it when we're old. And we have, as of August 1st, we have moved back to the land, and I'm feeling great. And we are back on the farm, and get this. The story is explosive. It just goes on and on. The level of generosity and gratefulness breeding upon itself and exploding. After spending all of that money rebuilding our little house, I was tired of the incredible prices and the cost of everything nowadays, and I went on to the local Free Cycle. I knew Free Cycle and Buy Nothing was an active community, but I just started asking around. We need table, we need bench, we need vanities, sinks, fan. And one by one, people started jumping out of the woodwork, giving us stuff. Not only giving us stuff, fighting over who could give us stuff. We got our entire interior of our house furnished. Kitchen cabinets showed up. A lady showed up with a hearthstone and said, "I've been praying for you for years. Come to find out, this community that I have been longing for, wishing for, praying for, traveling or hitchhiking around America and trying to find, it hasn't manifested the way you might think, yet it manifests nonetheless." And we have now not a commune, no housemates. In fact, we don't even have interns right now, but we have a virtual community that warms my heart and gives me a sense of meaning beyond just the chestnuts and the pawpaws and the peaches and the plums and the pears and the apples and the goats, which I thought was the raison d'etre of our permaculture farming. And so it's a happy story. And I'm not perfect, still don't sleep much. That could be a function of old age. But we are going for it in every way possible. We are back to the land, and we are inviting others to come and learn and be inspired, because of all the products, of all the high-value produce, the peaches and the pears and the dried fruit and the goat cheese, it turns out that the greatest product, the highest value product of all, is the inspiration and the communion and the connectivity that is engendered by the act of nurturing Mother Earth. And the kind of permaculture farming that we're doing is based on a whole different paradigm, which is why it has the potential to be part of the solution. Not just for climate change, but for humanity coming together. Because decentralized, small-scale, diversified, hands-on farming that collaborates, not conquers Mother Nature, that works with the seasons, the rhythms, the cycles, the water, the rain, growing appropriately scaled crops. That is indeed the way of the future. And I would invite all of you to come see us, to come share of our bounty. I have a basket of goods here that I'd be very happy to share with you today, amongst which are about 100 viable chestnut seeds. Now, the chestnuts are a crop that once upon a time were the basis of many civilizations, including Native Americans, Sicilians, and people think that the chestnut is defunct because of the terrible blight that came and wiped out the American chestnut. But Asian chestnuts and European chestnuts are still very much alive. And as of, it was really Y2K when I started doing all of this, when I quit my straight jobs, planted 16 chestnut trees on the advice of an old eccentric orchardist from Kentucky who swore that chestnuts were the way of the future, the food of the future. The corn in a tree, he said, this is what we will be eating in the future. And back then there was no internet, and we swapped snail mail, and he sent me these bare-rooted trees in the mail. Unfortunately, I am one of those people that has no off switch. And people who have no off switch are very prone to overdoing it and crashing and burning. And I have had 4, possibly even 5, catastrophic health collapses in my life. I probably should look at that. We got the chestnut trees in the mail. They showed up on a cold April night. And nutcase like I am, I went out into the rain and dug 30 holes in a row and herniated my lumbar disc. And it was 18 months of convalescence that occasion. But the trees lived, and they grew. And lo and behold, old Farmer England in Kentucky, he was right. Those trees are so prolific. In fact, I accidentally planted a greenhouse next to one of those trees. And this is what I love about permaculture. Half of it is brilliant accidents. We think we're so smart and such design geniuses, when in fact, Mother Nature has the last laugh. We planted a greenhouse next to one of those chestnut trees, and the radiant heat that comes off of that greenhouse has caused that one tree to yield not only 12 days early, but wildly prolific. We just harvested 90 pounds of nuts off of one chestnut tree. So you do the math. We have 16 viable trees, and there's 100 seeds right there in that basket. If each of you took home 3 seeds, it's likely that 2 would grow. 1 might make it to adulthood. Do the math. We have in our hands the solution to our problems. The solutions that are hiding out in plain view are my favorites. In permaculture, I always ask myself, are you smarter than a hornworm? The solutions are not running to Home Depot and getting some Roundup or some bug spray. The solutions are learning to slow down, tune into Mother Nature, learn the rhythms and patterns of the natural world, and become part of them. Not the conqueror, not the leader, not the president, just part of the solution. And I dare say that farming, permaculture, and lastly, attention to the autonomic nervous system. When it was done, my health crisis, my 4-year health crisis, I've saved you a lot of the details, the visits to the hospitals and the scopes and the endoscopy and the capsule endoscopy. When it was all done, I realized that the most important variable in mitigating and moderating our health is the autonomic nervous system. And I, like many of us, was living in a state of freeze and protection. Even folks like me who were not victims of childhood abuse, who didn't come through a war, we all carry the shadow and the resonance of all of that trauma. And the functional medicine people were very helpful in explaining and showing that until you reclaim your peace, until you reclaim the connection and the ability to reset, yes, we're all going to be stressed. Yes, we're all going to be in crisis. Yes, we will all have a turn going through a health crisis like I did. But without attention to the autonomic nervous system, whether it's chicken soup for the soul or permaculture farming or baby goats cuddling, we need to be able to stop and go back and reclaim the center, the calm, the peace. And I'm a lucky man, perhaps the luckiest. You all come up and visit us, and you can have a small slice of the peace that I'm talking about. Because at this point, my dad wants me to try to monetize the farm and sell our stuff, and I'm way too old at this point to go back to a mercenary impulse. So we're just going to, like the old geezer who won the megabucks, when asked what he would do, he said, I'll just farm till it's gone. And indeed he did. So I want to thank you for your attention this morning. And if you have any interest in the subjects that I've talked about, please talk to me. We would love to have you visit the farm, Laughing Dog Farm. It's just a few miles up the road. And we're grateful and happy to be holding the vision of community that the hippies inaugurated, perhaps imperfectly, but we all have a little slice of it. And I would just say to y'all, blessed be, and thank you for your attention today.
Well, I've got some questions. We will have coffee hour afterwards, and Danny will be here. So, so let's sing Harvest Round, and the choir has the words, and you can join in.
Oh, thank you. But it's going to require commitment. And this is one of those times when I ask you all to sing. The piece is very easy to learn, but we're going to attempt to put it in a round, as we sometimes do. And that's where you'll need to really commit and sing strong and keep track of the beat. So, the song goes like this. Dance and sing, for the harvest is over. You gotta take a big breath. Ready? And dance and sing, for the harvest is over. All of the barns are full. All of the barns are full. Ready? All of the barns are full. All of the barns are full. And the last part, the leaves come whirling around, around. The leaves are whirling around. Actually, it doesn't go quite like that. It goes like this. I'm used to singing it that way. The leaves are whirling around, around. The leaves fall down to the ground. All right? The leaves are whirling around, around. The leaves fall down to the ground. Okay. Now we're going to sing it through. We're going to sing it for you a couple times through. Let's do it 3 times through before we divide up. Okay. And that you can listen a little bit the first time and just kind of sing along softly if you like. And then we'll do the whole thing a little louder, and the last time, the whole thing with gusto and commitment. All right? Here we go. Ready? Dance and sing, for the harvest is over. All of the barns are full. All of the barns are full. The leaves go whirling around, around. The leaves fall down to the ground. Dance and sing, for the harvest is over. All of the barns are full. All of the barns are full. The leaves whirling around, around. The leaves fall down to the ground. All right, here we go. Dance and sing, for the harvest is over. All of the barns are full. All of the barns are full. The leaves go whirling around, around. The leaves fall down to the ground. All right, now we're going to divide in two, and this side is going to follow these three, and this side is going to follow these three. So wait until I bring you in, okay? And when we get to the very end, we will repeat the last line 3 times. Okay. All right. So here we go. All right. Just this side.
Yep.
1, 2, ready, and dance and sing for the Now keep it going to the barns. Dance and sing for the harvest is over. All of the barns are. Dance and sing for. Repeat the last phrase. The leaves are whirling around, around. The leaves fall down to. Once more. The leaves are whirling around, around. The leaves are falling down. Nice job. That was excellent.
Yes. Now's the time in our service for sharing joys and sorrows. If you have a sorrow that needs the help of this community to carry it, or a joy so great that you want to share it, now is the time. So a microphone will be brought to you, and Kirsten is going to light the candles. If you want, you can light a silent candle, light a candle silently on the side there. This is not a time for announcements or political stuff, and we hope you can be brief. We will have coffee hour afterwards for following up, chatting. A very great joy that we have is visitors who are with us. And so if you would like to, we invite you to introduce yourself and maybe tell us where you come from and why you're here today. But that's not required. So now is the time for welcoming visitors and sharing joys and sorrows.
Thank you. My name is Nancy, and I'm here from Orlando, Florida. I'm visiting my friend Janice, and it's been just such a lovely visit. The community here is wonderful. It seems that everyone is so connected everywhere we went, and we went to a lot of places. Everyone knew Janice, and Janice knew everyone, and I just found that really different than what I experienced in Florida. So thank you for that. And reading the Congregational Covenant, it's beautifully written. And Janice and I have only been friends for about a year, but she is a woman that demonstrates these practices. So I just feel so grateful to have met.
Glad you're here.
Hi, I'm Andrew. I just wanted to share a joy that this couple of days ago I inherited from my brother a beautiful barrel-shaped cradle that would belong to our grandmother, and I had last seen about 60 years ago when I was 5. And And this is a cradle that my father and his sister both, were in when they were born, and it came to me on my father's 97th birthday. He's been gone for about 30 years or so. But the real joy was actually seeing my brother, and who I don't get to see very often. So I wanted to share that.
Morning, church. Community. Joy that my brother's still alive. He's done Anne Marie Island. We asked him to get off the island, and he did with his truck. And I know I heard that his house is full of sand. A lot of the island's gone, and they're plowing sand like it was snow. So my heart, my joy is that he's alive. When I called for prayers, the storm was just going. I didn't just pray for my brother, I prayed for everybody. And community, for people coming together. Maybe they weren't coming together before, but there's been acts of kindness and heroism that have been incredible. So I'm holding a positive thought for the people that are there, holding them in our, I'm sure I speak for everybody in our hearts, that somehow, some way, that they'll get through this. Thank you very much.
Morning. Sorry. My name is Russ. I have a couple of joys. First, last week I went up to the Regal Care nursing home here in Greenfield to visit Marty Ortiz, who she doesn't come here anymore, but we still consider her a member of the congregation. Hadn't seen her in quite a while. It was a great visit, and I will go again. In fact, her birthday is this Tuesday. She said, come later in the day after the staff give me a party. And the other joy is, I'm usually the greeter in the entryway here on Sunday mornings. And I don't know why, but for some reason, a few minutes ago, it just struck me. This is a joy for me to do this. To say hello to people and respond to when somebody comes in with a situation that's not necessarily what I'm expecting, but I'm able to, respond to it. And as long as I can be here on a Sunday morning, you can see me in the entryway. Thank you.
Good morning, I'm Sandra. Well, I've known but Danny Botkin the whole 40 years that I've lived in Franklin County, and it's a deep joy to me to see you well again and to know all the work that you went through to heal yourself, and finally the gift of the land as the healing agent in your life, and the story this morning that you shared that now is a story that belongs to all of us. So thank you.
So I want to tell you a story about Danny, because my great joy is I got to see him 3 times this week, and there was a lot of time in the last 4 years, so I wouldn't see him 3 times in a year. Yesterday, Stone Soup is happening, it's buzzing, the day is beautiful, and all of a sudden, I happen to be outside, and all of a sudden this blue SUV pulls up and blocks the road, and I'm like, you can't, and out steps Danny with a huge basket, chestnuts, pawpaws, Asian pears, and the crowd went wild. I'm going to tell you that all that stuff disappeared. Yes, I took 2 pawpaws inside and gave them to Louise, who that's her treat, and I know it, right? And I think that to see Danny roar up in his car with this level of vim and vigor, it was amazing. His that's the Danny I know and love, but I love you in every form. But I just want to say, Danny shares with all, and when we receive from him, we get the gift magnified. So great joy.
Matt has some people on Zoom.
Yes, we have a sorrow to share. His battery is dead, so I'll just be very loud.
Yeah, here we go.
Gary would like to share that he's happy to be back. We've been away every weekend and just returned last night from another family gathering and didn't get up in time to make it in person. Our big sadness is that a good friend is in hospice in Worcester. Her name is Sue Pratt, and I believe I mentioned her last fall when she was diagnosed with a brain tumor. After surgery and recovery, it came back. We are visiting as we are able and singing to her.
Thank you. Let's have a moment of silence for those wonderful connections, generosity, for family, near and far, for old friends, and for illness, and for coming together in times of trouble. And now, if you would, in the very front of your hymnal, there's a song called Prayer to Friends. And I invite you, while seated, to sing. I'd like to read a poem by Mary Oliver. Song for Autumn. Don't you imagine the leaves? Dream now how comfortable it would be to touch the earth instead of nothingness of the air and the endless freshets of wind. And don't you think the trees, especially those with mossy hollows, are beginning to look for the birds that will come, 6 a dozen, to sleep inside their bodies? And don't you hear the goldenrod whispering goodbye, the everlasting being crowned with the first tuffets of snow? The pond stiffens, the white field over which the fox runs so quickly brings out its long blue shadows. The wind wags its many tails, and in the evening, the piled firewood shifts a little, longing to be on its way. And now we'll have our postlude lullaby of the leaves. Blessed be. And now, announcements. I do want to mention that in your order of worship, there are 4 meetings through the next week. And so we won't announce them, but if you are interested in attending any, you are more than welcome. Any other announcements?
So the Interfaith Council of Franklin County has been pondering how to have a ministry for all faiths during this time of impending challenge to our country's history and our future as a people. And so we've created 3 programs, one of which begins this Tuesday night, and it will be small circles of people having an opportunity to just share what it means to face your fear and to embrace your hope. And we're just going to listen to each other and be each other's teachers. And we're going to repeat that on October 21st. So we thought more than once. When we practiced it as a circle, as planners, we said, well, let's try it. And we just did it with each other. We ended up going around 3 times because every time somebody shared, it lit something else up in another person. And we just have more to say to each other about living into these times without control, not knowing what's going to happen, and listening to each other. So I hope you'll come this Tuesday night. It's going to be at Second Congregational Church on the Town Common at 7 o'clock, just for an hour and a half. And then we're going to have a prayer circle on November 4th, the night before the election, in the yard beside St. James and Andrews where there's a labyrinth. And we're going to just stand in the labyrinth, and we're just going to offer our prayers, whatever it is you want to pray for our country. So I hope that those will be meaningful to you, and you make a point of being there.
Andrew Baker left, but he did leave on the table in the entryway a big stack of schedules for pothole pictures in Shelburne Falls that started up again, I think was last night. And he's one of the organizers for it. The yellow sheet, so please help yourself.
And Danny did bring a full basket that he hopes that will get dispersed.